Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim Delace here with me. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. Looking forward to this chat and another one of our World Cup chats. Yeah, all good, dude. All good. All good. No complaints.
Sounds like it looks like the Cape Town. It's cold in the Cape, but anyway. Uh,
It is. It
um,
is.
yeah. Okay. We're back. We've got little over a week, 8 days until the start of the T20 World Cup. So that's going to be quite an interesting thing. But in preparation of that, we've got a preview show of the World Cup. It is in the West Indies and the USA. And so we thought, who better to have a discussion with about this World Cup, since it is going to be in his backyard, as Nate Hayes. We're going to bring him on just in a short while. But remember, please do follow us on the Full Quarter Pod at X. Subscribe to our One World Sports Radio YouTube channel, as well as follow us. If you're an audio person like myself, like Tim, with those headphones, if you are that inclined, please do follow our podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Tim, obviously the World Cup's in the West Indies and the and the USA. We spoke with Shadley earlier on this week. Nate's going to give us something a little bit more of a holistic view, and a view from someone who's actually not playing in the tournament. I'm sure he would have loved to play in the tournament, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Tim.
What did you want to ask? Do you want to ask a question?
No questions, Tim. Just trying to build up to bringing Nate on. But anyway, you are in Cape Town. It's cold. It's fine. Whereas I'm in Johannesburg and it's still the middle of summer. So that's another story. But anyway, let's bring Nate on to have a World Cup preview chat. Nate, how are you doing, my man?
Doing really good. Just getting ready, trying to stay on top of everything right now. USA is currently playing Bangladesh as we're speaking for the second T20I there down in Prairie View Cricket Complex in Texas, and they've slowed their run rate quite a lot since we just chatted a couple of minutes ago. So I'm a little bit worried about it, but yeah, doing all right. I'm very, very stoked for the World Cup. And right after we got Major League Cricket, and then right after we have minor league cricket. So it's a full summer right here.
Awesome. Let's talk about that game 2 days ago. Yes, where USA beat Bangladesh. Obviously, we had Shakib Al Hassan talking about how it's not great preparation to be playing Zimbabwe and the USA, and he's been embarrassed by both. But how big is that win for the USA?
I think it's pretty big, and it's a shame that he said that. It's a shame that he said that because I'd like to give Bangladesh a lot of credit for playing against USA. Obviously, this is pre the warm-up games. This is before the warm-up games. So they were already planning to play against USA here, and I think full members need to play the top associates a lot more often. And so when they do that, they expose themselves to criticism when they lose. I'd like to put it in a little bit of context. The ground that they're playing at, Prairie View Cricket Complex, is a very difficult to play place to play for your first time. It's not a friendly confines, that's for sure. It's very, very windy. There's a lot of road noise because it's right next to a highway, and obviously, anytime you're learning a new wicket, it's a challenge. But the players on the USA team, they've played so much cricket at Prairie View. I think that you got to give them an advantage in the first game against just about anybody.
Yes, and we spoke with Shadley about that Prairie View wicket, and he spoke about how it can be a high-scoring ground. One of the obviously key things was the heat, that it is quite hot in Dallas, and then obviously as the tournament will go, it's going to play a little bit more to spin. I didn't catch the game. What were your assessments of that wicket when they played?
First of all, just a little clarity. It's tough to stay on top of this. It's very easy to confuse it. But Prairie View is actually in Houston. It's not a venue from the World Cup. So that's where they're playing Bangladesh right now. You would think they'd play them at Grand Prairie in Dallas, which is where the World Cup will be, but for some reason they scheduled it in Houston. And both of the names have prairie in them, so it's very easy to confuse it. With everything's a prairie in Texas, either a prairie or a gas station. So, but yeah, basically, it was a huge win, I think, for USA. I think there's been a lot of controversy over the team selection because of the ways that they've gone about doing the team selection. And I haven't agreed with it, not even a little. The way that they kind of excluded some of the USA eligible players who are playing overseas and said, well, if you're playing overseas, you can't be in part of this team. Yeah, I mean, what is a cricketer going to do? Not play in the Sheffield Shield? Is Cameron Gannon going to come here and not play domestic cricket just to qualify? So I don't like the way that they went about that selection. At the same time, this is the strongest USA team I've seen, even with the omission of probably 6-7 players who deserve to be in this team or deserve to be in the 15 that aren't here. Even without those players, this is the strongest team I think we've put on a field, and that makes me optimistic. And it goes to show how good our domestic product has become since minor league has launched 3 years ago. We had a great chat about that when minor league launched, about the team names and stuff. So I remember you liked the Manhattan Yorkers team name a lot. Remains one of my favorites still. But yeah, it was great to see Corey Anderson and Harmeet Singh carrying the team over the line at the end of that innings, because it played out like kind of like an old school USA game where USA made a lot of mistakes. 5 no balls, an easy dropped catch that should have been taken right away early in the second over, I believe. And, against a full member, you can't afford to drop a catch in the second over. I mean, you got to get off on the right foot. And they came back and they won the game anyways, even though they played sloppy. Of course, like I said, Bangladesh played sloppy. You're going to play sloppy at Prairie View your first time here. So I think keeping it in context, I think it's set up a good series here. USA really needs to put their pedal down to the metal here to try to score off these last 4 overs. But Corey Anderson just came in the middle here in the first innings of the second game against the Fizz. But the fact that it was Corey and Harmeet that finished the game was significant. There was a lot of controversy over whether Corey would get in the team. And Harmeet has been one of the most anticipated players in the USA. A lot of fans, a lot of people who follow cricket in the USA have closely monitored Harmeet's eligibility. And so now that he's become eligible, and he bowls a very deep position for USA, which is the left arm orthodox position, and he's the best one in the USA right now, himself and Nosh Kenjige. So what Harmeet has proven, you guys had Shadley Van Schalkwijk on the show the other last week, I believe. Harmeet played with Shadley in Seattle when they won the minor league championship. That team was incredible. And what Harmeet did that season to get them even in the playoffs, they didn't almost make the playoffs. They almost didn't make the playoffs. He pinched himself up to number 3 because they had to cover a lot of run. They had to not only win out, but they had to cover a lot of net run rate. And he just bashed at about a 250 strike rate for the last 3 games of the season and then into the playoffs. So he's become this guy who you can put in at the end of an innings to go big. And he scored, I think, 33 off of 12 or 13 there in the game the other day to beat Bangladesh in that first innings. After the middle overs put them in a real hole, put USA in a real hole to the point where it didn't look like they were going to win. So that's, to me, the significance of it is they won. They kept from losing in a way that we're used to seeing them lose. And they did that with new players on the team. That just goes to show it justifies their spot.
Okay. That's pretty, yes. Yes, Tim?
No, I was just going to say, in your defense, Mpho, it wasn't on in our part of the world. I tried several places, despite USA Cricket putting out a tweet saying, watch on YouTube, it wasn't there.
That tweet caused me problems. I got a lot of people messaging me, "Hey Nate, it says it's on YouTube." I'm looking. I'm like, I can't find it either.
Well, yeah. which is a real shame because I would like to certainly have seen a part of the game, even if it was just a highlights package. But anyway, that's beside the point. You talked a lot there about your team and about a lot of your players. You look at the South African team, if they're going to do well, it's going to be their top six. They've got a really powerful top six, the batting order. That's where they're going to score a lot of runs, and that's how we will potentially do well. What does America have to do to be competitive? Where are their strengths and weaknesses within the squad?
I think the strengths are going to be the middle overs with the bowling department with Harmeet Singh and Nosh Kenjige. I think that's going to be a strength. Is they're going to have to take wickets in that time period though, in that period of the game. Early on, a big question is going to be Ali Khan. Is Ali Khan back in form? Is he, because he missed some time nursing an injury, not a huge injury, but his game the other day was his first game in a long time. So he got hit pretty hard. Now, can he get back into form? Can he get, well, today will be a good day to see him make, I want to see him make a little bit more progress. If he can, we know that Saurabh is incredibly consistent, the left arm swing bowler that USA has to open the innings and at times close. And Nosh Kenjige can bowl in the power play as well. So I think their left arm orthodox spin is good. They have two of them. Stephen Taylor is a very underrated right arm off break bowler. He's good enough with the ball to be in the team even when he's in a slump with the bat. So I think that's a huge strength of theirs. The big question mark is their pace bowling. We know Saurabh is going to be very consistent. He might have a bad game here or there. Is Ali Khan healthy? Is he back in form? And can they do something with that third pacer? Is it going to be Jesse Singh? Who has a history of no balls? Who has a history of inconsistent performances? The other day, for example, he had a maiden wicket over, which you don't see in T20 cricket, and then he gave up 30 in his next two. And then Shadley, is Shadley going to come in? I kind of advocated that I think Shadley should be their number three fast bowler at this point in time. But the thing that Shadley brings is the ability to bounce back when he does have a bad game. He doesn't dig himself into a hole, and he also bats to the occasion every single time. He's very reliable. He's very underrated with the bat. And so I think that the strength for the USA is their spin bowling and their batting. Their batting is really solid right now. They do bat deep. They bat pretty deep. So I think as long as they have some wickets in hand heading into the last 10 overs, I like their batting a lot. I think a big question mark with their batting is with Aaron Jones right now. He's the vice captain of the team, but he tends to dig himself into a hole, and then they have to make up for it later. But yeah, with guys like Corey Anderson, with Harmeet Singh, and then if Shadley is in the team, Shadley after him and Nosh Kenjige after him, I think that I really like their batting all the way throughout the batting order. But I think a big strength of theirs is left-hand batters. You don't see a lot of specialist off-break bowlers in T20 cricket. You see guys who do that part-time. And so I think USA can exploit that or force a team. I don't think the full members are going to really honor that too much. They're not going to say, oh, well, we need to make sure that we have a really good off-break bowler in the team. And I think that can come back to haunt them. And that's one of the reasons I actually wanted to see Gajanan Singh in this team too. And he was left out. But they do have, in just about any configuration of this team, they have at least three lefty bats who can score. I think that will help them a lot in this format. When you're not a full member, full members are going to bowl their best bowlers for the situation every time. They're not going to do a lot of matchup bowling against associates. And I think that we can say, hey, look, you're not going to match up against us. We're just going to we're going to put some runs on the board. I think that's the attitude they got to take. Canada tried to do some matchup bowling with USA in that series where USA won the series a couple weeks back, 4 games to none. And it just didn't work out. They ended up not getting enough overs early on from their captain, Saad bin Zafar, who's a left arm orthodox bowler who didn't want to bat as long as there was a lefty in there to start off. But So you can see that lefty righty type of situation, USA can really exploit that, especially in a first game against a team, which is what the group stage is going to be.
Yes, and speaking of the group stages, obviously you've got Canada, and then you've got the subcontinent's finest in India and Pakistan. And there's it's going to be quite interesting. Obviously, they play in New York. They'll play themselves. They'll deal with themselves. But how are you? What's the best outcome for the USA in this tournament? Is it a win against Canada and being competitive against Pakistan and India, or is there something else?
I think at the very least they have to be aiming to win 2 games in the group stage. Beat Canada, beat Ireland at least. I think that has to be their if they leave without doing those 2 things, I think they'll feel like let down. I think they'll feel very let down. And with Canada, you have some controversy with their selection in the team right now. And there was even an article put out last night that Pubudu has been fired. Their coach has been fired. Now, I did some digging into that, and I found out that actually didn't happen. He actually formally hasn't been fired. They were attempting to, but they couldn't find a they thought better about tabling the issue with the board because they knew they would probably get sued. But so and honestly, Pubudu's done a phenomenal job. He's taken 3 teams to ODI status in his career. And once he gets there, some of these boards get a little bit greedy and want to force him out of making decisions, for whatever reason. And you hate to see that, but it happens in associate cricket. It happens in cricket in general. But that aside, I think USA should be trying to. I think the USA has a chance to upset Pakistan. They're playing Pakistan in Dallas at Grand Prairie. All the players on the USA team are going to have been familiar with that. That's the only game Pakistan's going to play at Grand Prairie during the group leg. So I think that the USA has a chance to upset them. It's going to take an incredible effort. Obviously, a very, very good game. But I think they have a chance to upset Pakistan with the team that they have. They have enough match winners. If they get the right 11 on the field, I think that they have a chance.
Where are things between the players and the board? Because I've been following you and Peter De La Pena quite a lot. There's often been problems over the last couple of years, similar to what has happened here over the last decade. So where are things on that front? Are things going in the right direction? Are they or what? What's happening there?
I think anytime you have the question of whether or not something is meritocratic, I think anytime that arises, as far as selection goes, you're going to have a lot of grief between the players and the boards. And we see that in the cricket world, and not just here. We see it in Canada. We see it all over associate cricket. We see it in full member cricket as well. There's always rumors of preferential treatment and nepotism and things like that. Somebody was saying, "Oh, we shouldn't celebrate this win against Bangladesh because this was a Bangladesh fan, because the team is corrupt and it's been chosen nepotistically." And I said, "Well, our nepo boys beat your nepo boys." So, but no, I mean, there's a little bit of that here for sure. And anytime that happens once, or anytime something doesn't make sense with selection, or you see an agenda with the selection process, it makes everyone suspicious of the system, and it doesn't. You're never going to get your best out of everybody. You're not going to get your best team on the field. When you do, everyone's looking over their shoulder all the time. Everybody's got to make this moral decision just to play cricket, this ethical decision just to play cricket, and it's not fair. So I think with USA, their board should do a better job of paying the players, early enough and often enough, and when they should, and what they owe them, not just their players, but the people who work for the board. That's an issue. Of course, it's a very expensive country. It's expensive to have cricket here in the USA, and the budget goes by real fast, especially when you have lawsuits. So I think that it's always going to be a challenge. But there's rumors out there that USA, as soon as the World Cup's over, they're going to get suspended. I think everybody's heard those rumors. That they voted actually to try to suspend them before, and at least one full member voted in favor of that. And a lot of that is some of the decisions that the board has made, bringing in a CEO, Dr. Noor from Afghanistan, and then not listening to his recommendations, and instead of taking on his recommendations, just firing him, finding a reason to fire him and get him out of the way because he's inconvenient to whatever the agenda is. So anytime these things happen, the players, it affects the players a lot because they don't believe in the process. And we've already had conflicts between Major League and USA. We've had sanctioning concerns. We've had to postpone entire minor league seasons because USA was holding out on approving the league and didn't approve it in time. And we see agendas that line up with why they might do that. It's just the board gets in the way of development here in the USA for their own personal agendas. They can't see past themselves. And that as you guys mentioned before, this happens all over the world in cricket. You get people with the wrong priorities. You have to harmonize your domestic cricket product, your international cricket product, your franchise cricket product. You have to find harmony for these things to work for each other and not work against each other. And we had on our program Big Innings, with emerging cricket, we had Dane Pete on to talk. We talked a little bit about this. He got to play. He played Test. He left USA because he didn't trust the system here. He was literally on the plane to South Africa on the day that he would have qualified to be selected for USA. And so he was heading back there literally on the day. And it's because he didn't trust. Part of it is because he didn't trust the process here, and the administration, the board here. And he had a chance to play Test cricket again, and he wanted to seize it. He wanted to back himself. It's an amazing story, really. He sacrificed a lot to do this. He sacrificed his eligibility in Major League Cricket to do this as a domestic. But we saw how that went. We saw that he performed really well, and he's going to be considered now in that team. In the depth chart of that team, he'll be considered for certain. But I think that anytime you have some kind of obvious corruptions, especially, it's going to affect everything right down the line, and it chases people out of the game. It discourages the young players. The consequences for this type of thing are enormous. We can't even really quantify it.
You could have been talking about South Africa there. That whole
yes, you could have.
That whole time.
Yeah, and for those who want to listen to Dane Pete's thing, we've spoken to him. So you just have to go back to a couple of our archives to have a discussion with him there, to listen to his discussion. But the process now, and as Shadley mentioned it, because it's surprising to hear you say this, right? Because when we chatted to you last year, there was a lot of optimism around Major League Cricket, around this World Cup coming across, and also speaking to Shadley, obviously he mentioned that obviously the process is more of a trials-based process rather than a selection, because in full member nations, you just get a list of players. There's been no trials. No, right. Like the guy who's just come back from injury or who's had a great season doesn't have a chance to have a best versus best. I remember Australia used to have in the early 90s, it was Australia A versus the main team. And Australia A was the youngsters and the Ricky Pontings, the Andrew Simons, and they just laid into Australia. But you have that type of a system, but it's surprising that there's still a lot of nepotism. And as you mentioned, Nate, there is subjectivity in all sports, right? And that's the issue. So it's just quite surprising to hear that. But let's move over to this World Cup. You've got a 15-man squad. You've got a team ready. You've got stadiums ready. Grand Prairie was there for Major League. Now you've got the one in Florida, which is always there, right? And then now you've got the stadium in New York that we will find out what's going to happen. It might bring Bangladesh into the game against South Africa. But can you give us a sense of that and the preparations and also the vibe in the country? Are non-cricket lovers asking, what are these things? What's the structure? What's this cricket?
Yeah, yes, I think it's heating up a little bit. You got John Boy Media talking about cricket a lot. That's he has a following. He's introduced a lot of people to the sport via his content and via the hybrid sport. I'm actually the umpire of that hybrid sport, by the way. It's called Ball and Play League, and he does it in his warehouse, and we include Major League cricketers in the games. So things like that, little things like that make cricket easy for people to consume, have helped. And the thing about if you go to a Ball and Play League game on YouTube and you look at the comments, there'll be 300 comments, and almost all of them are, "This game has helped me understand cricket, the hybrid sport that we made. It's cricket rules, baseball skills," is basically to break it down. So what the idea was to make a game that people who are used to baseball can watch, and just by watching the game, learn cricket. And so they're learning about cricket by watching it something else. But looking at those comments, you see the one thing I see, and yes, that's a small group. 300 comments a game, or 60,000 views, or 100,000 views. That's not a whole lot of Americans. But when you see what the substance of the comments are, you get a little bit of a window into how ready people are for something like this. And literally 100% of these comments are positive, 99%. And so many of them are saying, I'm learning, I like cricket now because of this. And I think that's these little creative kind of non-traditional ways to spread the game, or to get people curious about the game, will pay off eventually. I think the World Cup, probably I would have liked to see it here in 2 or 4 more years from now, or whenever the next cycle. I think we're not quite ready for it. They had to spend $30 million building a temporary 34,000 seat arena or stadium that they're just going to tear down after 2 weeks of use. That's kind of crazy. I would have liked to see us a few more years down the road with more venues, a little more exposure of Major League Cricket behind us, a longer season of Major League Cricket behind us. We've only played 5 games per team of Major League Cricket last year. That's a very short season. But I think people are starting to get curious about it. It's not happening like it's not the buzz on the street. Like, you're not going to, you still have to look for people who are interested in cricket. But I think it's coming along. And the less they know about our board, the better.
Well, you just told the whole world something's wrong there. But
that's the tightrope. That's the tightrope I have to walk, right? I'm like, I got to be honest about what's happening. I got to hold somebody to account, but it's not going to help out. It's not going to help in that regard, which is the thing I'm passionate about, people learning the game here. So I'll find out, though, because I'll be at the Florida venue for this World Cup doing the ground announcing. So I'll be able to see what the demographics are there. If there's new people, I'm going to try to talk to people and see how that goes. We've got, one of the great things is the ground production people, and this is not the broadcast. This is the PA system. The people who walk around and talk to people and put a microphone in their face and get them up on the jumbotron, or get them in the social media, things like that. Yeah, it's on the ground, boots on the ground, boots on the ground production. And a lot of the people they're using are locals like myself, Joe Hickey, Amin Patel, people who are American, born and raised, who know American sports very, very well, because we love American sports and we know cricket, and we want cricket to become an American sport too. And so they're including a lot of these people at the ground. So I'm looking forward to talking to some of those guys that I know after their experience in New York or in Dallas, and seeing what the feedback is. If there aren't a lot of new people at these grounds, we this is something we'll find out in about 3 weeks. And I'm looking forward to that, because I got to find that out of Major League Cricket. I was surprised how many new people were in Major League Cricket. So I'd like to see that even more.
No, because it's a World Cup, and our viewing of World Cups is full stadiums. It's Especially
Right.
with cricket. It's packed, it's full, and IC have done a great job of going to centers where you would be able to get full crowds in full member nations. This is the first time that Kenya at the time was a non-full member nation in 2003, so don't kill me. But it's the first time that a non-full member nation is getting to host a large chunk of the games. It's not a minority of the games. It's effectively like half of the tournament is going to be in the USA. And the question is, when we switch on our televisions, is it going to be a full stadium or is it not? And that's one of the things we're going to have to find out. And to a certain extent, why we have you here. Because largely, Major League Cricket, I thought was a success last year. I thought it was great. And so the question obviously is the vibe. And I remember when we spoke, you wanted because obviously you were in, I don't know if you're in one of the Carolinas. No, it's
North Carolina.
Yes, North. And there's a stadium right there, and you wanted more games that side.
Yeah.
Are you sad that they didn't add that venue?
Yeah, for the World Cup, I am. I understand why they didn't do it. I get it. It's probably a little too small. Of course, the venue in Florida it's got I think 9,000 permanent seats, and then in space for another probably 7, 8, 9,000 people to gather around. The one in Dallas has a seating capacity of 7 or 8,000, and they could have brought more bleachers in and added probably 3, 4, 5,000 more seats if they wanted to. There's plenty of space there to do that, to expand it temporarily. I understand the desire to get it in New York, and it's been a long, long road, and they got some pushback from the people of the Bronx. They wanted to put it there, but I think that the people of the Bronx did the right thing. Rather than sacrifice their public park for an entire summer and then be charged thousands of dollars for tickets, they decided they didn't want it there. But so they put it in Long Island, I think, I'm stoked. 16 of the games are here in the USA. I'm stoked that it's here, but I feel like Morrisville missed out because you're going to see games in Florida and Dallas and New York. New York's got 8 games. They have 32,000 seats, actually. They have 8 games. Are they going to really fill up for Canada versus Ireland? Is this going to look like the stadium in Gujarat when India didn't play there? We don't want to see that on TV. You don't want to see empty seats. We saw a little bit of that even in Australia and like Hobart and things like that for some of the games of the not bigger games. If you had put all of the smaller games at Church Street Park, you would have had 3,000-4,000 people there every single time. It would have looked completely packed. The atmosphere would have been unmatchable. It's already incredible. But I'll tell you what did ease the blow is that Major League Cricket is coming here again. So Major League Cricket will be staging, I think, was it 9 games here? Throughout Major League will be in Morrisville, and so I'm happy about that. The people here, they love cricket. They'll come out. They'll come out to these games. But yeah, I was disappointed. I get it. It's a hard place to work at. It's a hard place to manage. It's very difficult to set up a broadcast here right now. So until they get some kind of permanent broadcast infrastructure there, it's not going to be everyone's first choice. And if they did, it would be a lot of people's first choice.
Okay.
Yeah, you took a lot of sense there. I think we don't live in an ideal world, but if we did, it would have been ideal if it was 2026, that kind of vibe. To have it then. I do get that impression after talking to Shadley, after talking to Obus a couple of years ago. I got the same sort of sort of vibe that it's a work in progress. The whole thing is a work in progress. How important? So I watched a lot of minor league at the start, simply because I was interested. I wanted to, and I'd spoken to you, and I was interested. I didn't watch a lot of the major league, but how important was and is major league to create more eyeballs to cricket in America, and then by extension, more eyeballs to potentially this World Cup?
I think Major League is very important. I mean, obviously, it gives the big carrot for the players to aspire to. Everybody, all the youth players want to eventually make a Major League cricket team. it's one of those things where selection into Major League Cricket has to be 100% meritocratic. It has to kind of supersede the little corruptions we see elsewhere, and it has so far. It's fought hard to do that, but that can't be undermined by. We can't have that undermined by some apathetic franchise teams in terms of their domestic selection of players. We have a little bit of laziness, I think, from the IPL teams as far as picking the teams. And it's like, oh, well, we'll just win with Tim David coming in at the end. We don't have to have all, we don't have to pay that much attention to domestic cricket in the USA. We'll just win with our big name guys that MI can sign anybody they want to. So, but I think as long as enough of those teams are taking it very seriously. The non-IPL teams are drafting domestically incredibly well. They're clearly paying attention to minor league. They understand how to contextualize minor league stats. The country is enormous. The East batting figures are going to be dramatically different than Texas batting figures because the wickets are way different. So you have to understand how to look at those stats. And I think there's 3 teams in Major League that do. Major League is super important to making sure that everything works out in the whole ecosystem. I still think minor league is the heart. Minor league is the most important thing, but Major League makes minor league possible because it's the big thing. It's the thing where people are going to actually watch. They're going to make money off of that, or eventually that's the goal. So minor league is not going to make money if for people. It's just you do it because the people who run minor league do it because they love the game, by and large. And so, but yeah, Major League hugely important here. It gives our players not, everybody talks about, oh, well, franchise can't be more important than international. And that, sure. But when else is Steven Taylor going to bat against, Gerald Coetzee? When else is that going to happen? Is South Africa going to schedule a series against USA? And are they going to do it every year? No, they're not going to do it every year. So this is the way our best players are going to get the very best competition as full members. Like I said before, hats off to Bangladesh. And I feel that it's a shame that they made the comment about it's not the greatest preparation playing against USA. Well, we did beat you, but hats off to them for playing us, for agreeing to it. And this is what more full members, I'd love to see them do it. And I understand why they don't really have a ton to gain from it. If it wasn't for the fact that Bangladesh is coming here anyways, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be playing against Bangladesh right now.
Now look, and to a certain extent, I think that's what this World Cup is going to do, is going to open the eyes of the world to a newer market, which is why it's going to be quite important for the interest in cricket in America to kind of to increase. And I look at that first game against Canada and I say that has to be a must win for the USA. You have to start off the tournament on a good note. And your second game is Pakistan in a stadium where Pakistan will probably not have played a lot. So that's another chance for you to cause an upset. And then after that, the interest will be there in my head. But to you, Nate, is there a game that you're interested in watching, that you're excited to watch?
For USA. For USA, it's the first game against Canada. That's the most that's incredibly meaningful. And there's a lot of reasons why. We just beat a full member of Bangladesh. Now for everybody who knows cricket, that's a big deal, beating a full member as an associate. It's a big deal. For everybody who doesn't know a thing about cricket in the USA, they're not going to be able to tell you where Bangladesh is most of the time, right? It's, the American attitude to international sports is, well, we should be the dominating team. Why are we celebrating beating Bangladesh? Like, have you seen their GDP? Like that's the American attitude. It's not going to impress non-cricket fans that we just beat Bangladesh. They're not going to understand the context of that. But beating Canada, I think will speak largely to non-cricket fans. Oh, we just beat Canada in Texas. That's great. If we do beat them, I mean, we can't take them lightly, especially any Pubadu coach team and Saad bin Safar captain team. You can't take lightly. and we historically have incredibly good games against Canada. So I think that's the one to me that's the biggest as far as appealing to outsiders. Obviously, then after that, we have to perform well against India. We can't get blown out of the water against India. I think we have to have a good showing against India. If we bat first, score 155, 160, and they chase us down in 18.3 or whatever, or then that's to me that's great. That just you have to keep that in perspective. But I think enough. Everyone knows India is good. Non-cricket fans, cricket fans, everyone knows India is good. If we perform well against India, I think that'll actually pay off for us in a lot of ways. Aside from that, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Sri Lanka play Nepal, which is the first game in Broward in Florida. I'm very much looking forward to that. Nepal has a lot of very passionate fans, as we know. And then Nepal versus Netherlands on the 4th of June in Dallas. And I'm not just trying to talk up Nepal because I know they have a lot of fans, but I do want to see. I first of all, I think Netherlands is very good, and Nepal playing in Dallas, the largest the largest population of Nepali people in the USA is in the Dallas area. So I think that stadium
should be fun.
Could fill right up, and I want to see that. I want to see two associates playing in a big crowd at I think the best stadium in the USA, the best true stadium in the USA that's permanent is Dallas, and I think that's a great draw. I really like that. But of course, it's in the middle of the day though. It's at a 10:30 start. But those are the games I'm interested. I'm excited about all the Canada games too. Yeah, I really am looking forward to that Netherlands Nepal game.
That's amazing.
Awesome. And for those who'll be watching America for the first time they'll be watching America play in a cricket match, who should they be looking out for? Who should they be focusing their attention on in terms of your side?
Ali Khan. Just because when he does get those wickets, you get a wonderful little explosion that's almost suspension worthy. So I want to see that celebration from Ali Khan on home soil. And it means a lot. He's been our most successful T20 cricketer, a franchise cricketer. So I'd love to see him perform well. I think people should pay attention to him. And another guy to watch is definitely Andres House. Andres is somebody I would pay close attention to. Best batter in the USA for my money.
Wow.
Yeah, and
and
Stephen Taylor. I could name I want to go down the whole team and just name everybody. but Stephen. I think the big match winner on this team against a really good. If we're going to beat Pakistan, Corey Anderson's going to have a great game. I think he's going to have. If we're going to beat Pakistan, Corey's going to have to bowl 2 overs and go at around 5, 6 and over. So we're going to have to get that left arm bowling from him, and not only that, but he's going to have to score at like 180, and he's going to have to put up a big total, I think. So I like Steven. I like the whole team really, but I think Steven and Corey, Harmeet, our lefty guys, our lefty bats, and Nosh, Sorab, Ali Khan. But yeah, I think if I was going to advise somebody to pay attention to one person, that's a hard question. I'd say, Andres is going to bat because he's batting number 3 for USA. And we know he's an opener. I was shocked to see him go in at 3 against Canada. But his attitude is whatever. I'm just going to go in and perform. He's not too different from Quentin de Kock as far as that goes.
Yeah, we had him on our show with Shadley. Shadley got us onto the team bus, and there was Josi. We got to ask him a few questions, and that's in the last episode actually, so you can check that at the back end of the show. But yeah, I'm excited to see Josi. I'm excited to see the South Africans, right, and see how well they do in this tournament. And speaking of the tournament, what's the one legacy you'd like to you want it to leave on the US public in general?
I want on the U.S. public.
Well, the legacy this World Cup must leave for USA cricket. Let's put it that
I
way.
think it would be. I think to me a great outcome would be USA has a good showing. Whether or not we make it to the next round, that's unlikely. But we have a good showing. Beat the teams we should beat. We do it in a convincing enough way to show that we have a good squad. And that becomes a good advertisement for Major League Cricket, which is coming up right after. And then that becomes a good advertisement for minor league cricket. And we can see here then some kind of a real ecosystem here in the USA that can be reinforced, hopefully, similarly in the future. Once people can, I'm hoping that it starts a little bit of a fire for some people. And USA is going to have to perform to do that.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting, Nate, in terms of how the USA is going to perform. But I'm sneakily looking at that Pakistan game going, here comes an upset. But most importantly, you still need to beat the teams that are not full member nations. Well, Ireland is a full member nation by extension, but that's one of those games where I think you'd be looking at. But Nate, I think thank you very much for joining us. We are getting into the swing of things. South Africa, we're recording this Thursday night. South Africa is going to play West Indies, not in America, but in the West Indies. I still say we should have played the USA, should have tried to, and every member nation needs to try and help cricket in the USA, because if you want to take away some of the power from the BCCI, one of the best ways is to get in a partner who has a very, very large untapped audience. And that is the US, and that's what this World Cup is. But Nate, thank you very much. We might be calling into you after some games to ask you how you're feeling. And we might even call you if USA finds a way to get out the group and play South Africa. Who knows?
It would be incredible. It would be incredible. They're going to have to, like you said, they're going to have to beat Ireland, who's a good team. I almost made it seem like a given that they're going to – it's not at all. They're a good team. So, yeah, but that would be something else to see USA versus South Africa at some point in time. I really admire South Africa's talent. It's just immense. So much talent. And we see it now.
Going to the US.
Yeah, we've seen a lot come to the USA, but just following cricket around the world, franchise cricket, and then internationally, just seeing the amount of incredible talent coming out of South Africa. It's wow. It's just, you have so much.
Thanks, man.
Nate,
yes, Nate, thank you very much. Good luck for your gig in Fort Lauderdale. It's not the worst place in the world to be stationed. So please do enjoy that. There's a lot of games coming out of there. And so, yeah, all the best and goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Sure. Thanks, man.
Cheers. Mate.
And there you have it. A little bit of a Team USA discussion, as well as a World Cup preview of how ready the USA are and what is happening in there. Tim, any final words?
No. Except I would like. I now wish we were playing them, and that's kind of where
I want to play them. Like
I really want to play them. I really want to play them.
No, look, yeah, no, yeah. It I think Shaggy and Andries would have. I think Shaggy and Andries would have. Yes,
have a series over there. Have a series over there. Fly us over. Boom. Done.
Yes.
I'd
right before Major League Cricket, and then we stay with Major League Cricket for the end. That would be something. I want that. But yeah, just thanks to Nate as well. It's been a really great one. But remember, we'll be back with more World Cup coverage. We're going to go back to our traditional chatting to the to members from the media of the team that we will be playing. So yeah, we will be doing that to give you a sense of where the team is, how they're looking, and who South Africa will be playing. Outside of that, from myself and Tim, it's goodbye and le sale kakagiso.